the northern part of Nigeria begin to realize that they are the problem of Nigeria. When we look at the part of education, the rate of illiteracy, the rate of poverty, the rate of joblessness, they are the beggars of Nigeria. When you go to the western part of the east, south of Nigeria, when you see the beggars there, they are the northern people. Now they begin to realize that they are getting it wrong. Let's watch this video together.
Why is it that in a state that started Sharia in 1999 is not the one that is the most educated state? In fact, how come that in that state in 2017 only 24 children got 5 credits in secondary school? How do we define Sharia? How do we define Islam? Illiteracy? Malnutrition? Children on the streets? We have to ask ourselves.
See Lagos, if you go to Lagos, you have companies. If you go to Edo State, at least you get oil, people they do. If you go to the Niger Delta region, there's oil. If you go to the east, businessmen. If you go to the north, disaster, beggars, almajiri. That's what they know. They don't know any better.
Today, if they divide Nigeria, northern Nigeria, we don't have any company. No any company that we're going to claim that we okay, this one the government build it and this is our own now. Nothing. We are starting from square one. Poverty will kill us in the north. Let's be sincere with each other. Now I'm asking Atiku, and asking El-Rufai, and I'm saying Obasanjo, and partially Peter Obi, because you are together with them that time. So I'm asking you people, this series of companies that was lost, that was collapsed under your regime, where are they? I'll list them now. Nigerian paper mills in Kwara State was collapsed 2005. Lafiaji Sugar Company was collapsed 2005 in Kwara. Nigerian Bottling Company in Kano, Kaduna, Plateau and Borno collapsed 2004. Kaduna Fertilizer Company collapsed 2002. Arewa Textile Limited collapsed 2002. Peugeot Automobile Nigeria Kaduna collapsed 2007. Super Textile Kano collapsed 2004. Zamfara Textile collapsed 2004. Sokoto Cremel Ties collapsed 2005. Bauchi Meat Factory collapsed 2003. Gombe Oil Mill collapsed 2004. So I have more than 44 companies in the north that was collapsed. So I'm asking Atiku, I'm asking El-Rufai, where are those companies?
2016, a study was conducted in Nigeria on each geopolitical zones to know the amount of beggars in each geopolitical zone. So they started from the north. Okay, so the northwest recorded over 5 million beggars. The northeast recorded over 3 million beggars. And the north central recorded over 1 million beggars. They went to the south, and the south recorded over 9,000.
Poverty and illiteracy are the two major issues we have in northern Nigeria. Kunga talauci, kunga rashin ilimin boko. These are the two major issues we have in northern Nigeria. When we talk about poverty, we are talking about the level of poverty that somebody barely has enough to eat for one day. And these are not people who cannot work. They are working, but the person is doing the most menial job, and the person cannot afford $1 in a day. Those people exist in northern Nigeria. When we talk about lack of education, we're talking about people who have never been to the 4 walls of a classroom. No form of formal education whatsoever. Boko, that's what we're talking about. Until we can sort out these issues, even though they are hand in hand, like they go hand in hand. I've been a hand in glove that they talk about. Tare suke, kunga talauci da rashin ilimi, rashin makaranta, rashin wayewa. That's the problem of northern Nigeria. So we now have a problem, right? We have the two major demons that are affecting northern Nigeria. So how do we fight? How do we solve this problem? free education. Let's clamor for free education in northern Nigeria. Abamu free education. Proper education, proper one. And then we cannot talk about how we can empower our people, upscale. Koda makaratendere adult education. However, once you do it, education should be number one. Then secondly, poverty eradication. Na musamman akwai yawa mutane kasuwanci, how to trade properly, because I mean, people without women going to school can elevate themselves from poverty. Come to Kano. There are over 10 different markets in Kano, and they are billionaires in all those markets. Guess what? Most of them are not educated. They have never been to a 4 walls of the classroom. However, kudi malam, suna da dololi. See, education, poverty elevation, those are the things. Let's focus on it. Okay? Free education. Let us do proper business, financial education, financial literacy. Let people know that in case I'm not think about where you can say sawa. Teach people financial education. That's the way to elevate people from poverty. Because Baweba doesn't sound funny. Problem is we now have too many children, too many responsibilities. By the time somebody understands, then we are making headway. Eradicate poverty, free education in Nigeria. Those are the solutions to the problems. You see, insecurity, it will be.
Instead of fighting hunger and poverty, we are buying guns and Tucano jets. No society, none. With this much inequity and hunger, never have peace. 20 million out of school. 133 million. That is 65% of Nigerians during the time of Buhari a year ago are in multi-dimensional poverty. It's drug. Guns coming from across the border. You're buying more guns instead of feeding people, instead of educating your children. They're getting it wrong. When this government came, when this party came in 2015, the bag of rice, 50 kilos of rice was 7,500. Yesterday was 70,000. 70,000. How much does a worker, what is the minimum wage? It's 30,000. How much does a soldier, the war front earn? 50,000. The constable, the roadblock, 50,000. They cannot even buy rice and they have guns. They have guns. You have a security man with guns and you are not feeding him. You are in there inside your house, you and your family eating chicken. You think you'll be safe? There is hunger in the land and the government, federal and state, must provide food immediately. All this talk they're doing.
Why is the north of Nigeria poorer than the south of Nigeria? So, poverty, as we all know, is a global issue, is a global phenomenon. Most countries, especially developing countries, are suffering from the problem of poverty, which has a whole lot. But then, as it is a global phenomenon, it is also a national phenomenon here in Nigeria. That is poverty across the regions of the country. But then, poverty in the north of Nigeria is more pronounced than the south of Nigeria. According to recent statistics released by the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, there are 133 million people living in poverty in Nigeria, and the north alone accounts for 86.2 million, which is equivalent to about 65% of the total number of poor people, while the south accounts for about 46.9%, which is equivalent to 35% of the total people living with poverty in Nigeria. So here in this video, I'm going to give you 5 reasons, I think that's in my own personal opinion, why the north of Nigeria is more poorer than the south of Nigeria. And number 1 is the subsistence level of supplies, that there is more arable land in the region. So definitely agriculture is the dominant industry in the region, but then it is treated more as a traditional occupation rather than a business. So what the kind of agriculture that is being practiced is mainly at that subsistent level. That is less innovation, that is less use of modern technique and precision agriculture, and that is less yield. So if that is less yield, definitely there will be less revenue that is accrued to the region in that regard, and so that will affect the number of people that are being lifted out of poverty in the region. And number two reason I'll give for this, in my own opinion, is lack of value addition. That is the lack of storage facilities in the region. Sorry, not storage, I mean processing facilities. It is very, very important to note that value addition has to do with the processing of raw materials into semi-finished or finished goods. So like in the case of the north of Nigeria, agriculture, which is the dominant sector, is being plagued by the problem of lack of processing. So you see, whereby farmers produce goods and their farm produce, they are usually sold to the other parts of the country in their raw form without adding value. Now, the third reason for the high level of poverty in northern Nigeria is insecurity and political instability. We all know that Nigeria has unfortunately had its own fair share of insurgency, sectarian and ethno-religious crises here and there, and the north of Nigeria has been left to bear much of this burden. For instance, if you are conversant with the history of the north of this country, like from the 80s, there's been the Metasine insurgency and the various religious and ethnic crisis that has rocked different parts of the north, like Kaduna riots, the Jos ceaseless riots, the Boko Haram insurgency that has ravaged the northeast and is still not even defeated, and now most recently the menace of banditry that is ravaging the entire region. Almost no state is spared from crisis. Some call it farmers headers crisis, some call it insurgency or whatever, but the north is under siege with different level of violence. This has been going on for over the years now, and definitely it has affected businesses. It has affected the level of foreign direct investments that comes into the region. So you see, most times when statistics have been declared, you see that the south of Nigeria has more foreign direct investments than the north, which implies less jobs for the region, less revenue, less taxes, and so on. So this has contributed to the high level of poverty in the region. Now, number 4, now, in opinion, the cause of higher level of poverty in the north of this country is socio-cultural factors. For instance, the issue of early marriage and having an uncontrollable number of children is a cultural practice that has been going on for so long in the north. So it is common to see a man with so many wives and so many children. So don't plan your family, definitely. It means you are going to have less resources to cater for too many number of people that you can't even afford to. So that has left the northern region with high level of destitutes, both children, women, as a result of that. Then I think the last but not the least I would like to mention here is lower standard of education and inadequate skills acquisition and development. I think the south of Nigeria, if you want to compare, is more endowed in terms of education and skills development than the north of this country. But then there is a historical account to this. Western education, or what we know as the formal education, was introduced first in the south of the country before it was introduced in the north. But this is not an excuse to say why the north is lagging behind, actually, because the colonialists have left over 50 years ago now.
Understanding what are the changing priorities of the Ummah as time changes. Even what are the priorities of da'wah. I mean, to be honest, if you are faced with all these problems of out-of-school children, malnutrition, drug abuse, is the priority of the da'i today to be talking about things like Salatul Fatihi and Tariqah? Is that really what our priority is? So, understanding that da'wah itself needs to be positioned within maqasid, masalih al-amma, mafasid al-amma. What are the priorities? What is more important? What do you stress? These are all parts of the science of usul, but also qawaid. Because look, we're in the 21st century, and we are in Africa, we're not in Arabia. Every single day we are faced with new questions, with new developments that we cannot find exact replicas of in the past, in different geographies or different historical times. These are called nawazil. And scholars of Nigeria of 2020 need to be able to answer questions that they are faced with in Nigeria in 2020. And you need the tools to answer those questions. So I'll give you a simple example about how the lack of knowledge of Qawaid becomes a problem. We have just codified a Muslim family law in Kano. And one of the issues that's very controversial is the question of how do you regulate the stage at which a girl gets married? And you'll have scholars that will tell you there is no hadith, there is no ayah, there is no scholar that said you cannot marry a girl at the age of 3 or 4 or 5. And it is true, they might say that. And then you try to tell them that there is, in the field of qawaid, something called taqyid al-mubah, regulating that which is lawful. And to give an example that we can all understand, we all have freedom of movement. You have the freedom to enter your car and to drive your car. You have complete freedom. It is permissible. Yet someone says to you, if you see a red light, you must stop. He has not stopped you from driving, but he has regulated driving, because if you keep going through those red lights, you can kill someone, you can cause accidents, you can damage society. That is the principle of taqyid al-mubah. If you say wait until a girl has reached a certain stage before you marry her, you have not stopped marriage, you have not stopped the sunnah, you have simply regulated a certain element of it that has been shown to cause harm to society at this point in time. I've seen all the harms associated with all these. But having that conversation is very, very difficult because of you go into the field of qawaid. And even when you go to that, the difference between making that which is lawful impermissible, or making that which is unlawful permissible, and whether you need darura, and these are all issues in qawaid. So I mean, my first point is this Sharia intelligence is the most important intellectual component that we lack as an Ummah. I congratulate IET for focusing on it, and I hope and pray that it is something that we'll all pick up on. Now, because we do not understand usul, because we don't understand qawaid, we end up misdefining and misunderstanding our priorities, and we have to be very honest with ourselves. I'm an economist and I always talk economics, and we look at the numbers and we look at poverty. If you look at all the poverty indices in the world today, you find that in southwest Nigeria, the incidence of poverty is 20%. In the northwest, it is 80%. The northeast, it's 80%. Why is it that the poorest parts of this country are the Muslim parts? Why is it that in a state that started Sharia in 1999, and we just heard the opening verses today, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. This is the very first verse revealed in the Quran. How come that the state that started Sharia is not the one that is the most educated state? In fact, how come that in that state in 2017, only 24 children got 5 credits in secondary school? How do we define Sharia? How do we define Islam? Illiteracy? Malnutrition? Children on the streets? We have to ask ourselves. And we can't ask those questions until we begin to understand through usul that you have to live in this world well in order to serve Allah for the hereafter. For Islam to prosper, we need educated Muslims. We need Muslims that are not begging. We need Muslims who are standing on their feet. Believe me, if poverty continues in the north, Islam will disappear from the north. The Prophet said, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-kufri wal-faqri. Allah, I seek refuge with you from disbelief and poverty. And he said, Kad al-faqru an yakuna kufran. Poverty can lead to disbelief. These children that we see as al-majiris and we laugh at them and we treat them as victims, somebody will just come and pick them up, put them in a school, give them medical care, and convert them to another religion. And they will do that by the hundreds and the thousands. So what we see on the street is a product of bad economic policies and wrong priorities. These children are not criminals, they are victims. What part of Islamic law, what verse in the Quran, what hadith of the Prophet allows a father to give birth to a child and leave the child to go and fend for himself? Where? Sheikh Abdullah bin Fodi said, for you to send a child out.
I believe you have watched the video. In one of his statements, he said that the children that are doing alamajiri, they are victims. They are victims. That is why they are doing it. And he also said, even in the Quran, there's no place that said that children should be fighting for themselves, feeding themselves. He said there's no place. So he was telling the Muslim people that they should work on that area, because if other religions pick them up and clean them up, they can convert them to another religion. So even the religion is the problem now, because he's afraid of converting them, not that he wants to solve the problem. Anyway, I believe you have watched the video. Please do like to share, comment, and subscribe, and do well to come back and watch more. Thank you.